you don't get help from nobody. Yeah. Don't promise someone something and don't do it. Don't do it. Your word is power, so you better keep it. So keep your head by your body, watch your things what you say. One kind word can go a very long way. That's how you keep it living. You are winning. You are winning. You are winning. Even when it's dark and you can't see. You are winning. You are winning. You are winning. Even when you don't get help from nobody. Yeah. Free your mind.
Afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming. We're going to get started.
Minister Green, Mr. Trevor Bernard, President of the Small Ruminant Association of Jamaica, other members of the association, Dr. Osbel Watson, our Chief Veterinarian, farmers, ladies and gentlemen, members of the media, Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This afternoon, we invited you here to our workshop sponsored by Newport Mills, manufacturers of Nutramix, goat feed, and ram and lamb. We are doing this workshop because as a company, we believe in the sustainability of our local industries. For many years, if you drive around Jamaica and look at farming and the way we treat farming, a lot of it was pedestrian, a lot of it was lack of knowledge, a lot of it was lack of resources, and a lot of it was lack of opportunities. But with the use of technology and where the world is going today, whatever has been practiced in the first world country can be made available to our local farmers. In the information age that we are at today, everybody can access information and everyone can access modern technologies and new ways of doing things. As a company, we have gone ahead and we have created you the best ration you could get for your animals. What we're doing is the second part of the equation because it's a trifecta. It's threefolds. The second part that we're trying to do now or to accomplish on your behalf is to get you the best possible genetics so that you can have animals that can grow, that can convert, that can produce, and can get you into a point of profitability in the shortest possible time. And what that means? Money in your pocket. It contributes to the GDP of our country, it helps our industry, and it cuts down on importation. Today we have amongst us Mr. Sam Golden, who is from Gold Mine Genetics in Texas, United States of America. Mr. Golden here. Let's welcome him. Let me also use this opportunity to welcome each and every one of you who have traveled from far across Jamaica to be here. I trust we will all learn. When we leave here, we'll be empowered with knowledge, and we will see all the possibilities and opportunities that exist ahead of us if you get on board and join the Nutramix train. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we have someone special in our midst today. Our guest hails from St. Elizabeth, and he is the Member of Parliament for Southwest St. Elizabeth. He has endorsed the Nutramix team on their initiative to improve and develop the small ruminant industry in Jamaica. And he believes that there is a massive opportunity for growth within this industry, and he is here to share with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, the Honorable Minister Floyd Green.
Thank you very much. Firstly, Mr. Thomas and the entire Nutramix team, including Dr. Young, who needs no introduction. I have Dr. Oswald Watson, our Chief Veterinary Officer, is here with us. Mr. Samuel Golden, good to have you here. When I heard that you hail from Texas, but when I did further research, I heard that they only borrowed you. And I am not surprised that you are the best among the best, because you actually hail from Jamaica. And especially in these Olympic times, we prove time and time again that whatever we set our minds to, we are the best in the world. So let's have another round of applause for Mr. Sam Golden, who has joined us here today. Other specially invited guests, of course, members of my ministry team, Advisor Hilton, and members of the media. I am very, very happy to be here today. This is a very important initiative for us at the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and for a number of reasons. We are on a drive to craft a new face of food. And that new face of food focuses on food security, agribusiness development, climate smart technologies, and export expansion. And as we have outlined that new face of food for this financial year, the first pillar of food security is critical, and the small ruminants probably the most important element of that first pillar. And it's so important because we have a tremendous opportunity. Oftentimes people look at where we're falling short and see challenges. I look on it and see opportunity. And what is the opportunity? Over the past 5 years, Jamaica spent about US $1 billion importing goat and chevron. 1 billion United States dollars. Currently, our local supply only satisfies 25% of the total demand for goat meat and chevron. So there is a tremendous opportunity. And what we have to do is take advantage of that opportunity by rapidly multiplying our small ruminant population. But in order to do that, you don't just need government, you need critical private sector partners. And that is why we are here. And I want to commend Nutramix on putting their hands up and leading this charge to ensure that they are partnering with us to drive the growth across our small ruminant sector. So a number of you are here today and you will hear critical information from some of the best in the world, but importantly, you now have access to some of the world's finest genetics to ensure that you have better animals to drive your production and to give you better returns on investment. You will also hear about training opportunities. You will also hear about feed and ration, that you need to ensure that we're practicing a modern-based agriculture. Because we're not going to meet the demand if we continue to do things like we used to do them for the past 50 years. Now we need to incorporate the technology. We need to use research to drive what we do. We need to ensure that our investments are made on business principles. So the government is happy that we have a private sector player that is working with us in that regard. And I'm happy that we have more than one that has partnered with us to move this small ruminant sector forward. But we're not just leaving it to the private sector. In fact, we have announced that we're embarking on a $50 million small ruminant development program. Because, again, the government has to play a facilitatory role to ensure we achieve the objectives that we set. So what are we doing? We're looking to target about 6,000 farmers over the next 2 years. We want to ensure that you have access to the best genetics, so those farmers will be able to get 1 to 3 strands of semen free of cost, paid for by the government of Jamaica, so that you can use that to drive your small ruminant population. We're also going to be doing embryo transfers. We're also going to be bringing in new livestock so that we can get the genetics right. But importantly, we're going to be doing significant training around feed, around your rations, around your husbandry practices, your fodder banks, all of the elements that you need to be better goat farmers. So we are truly in this together. And that is part of the overarching policy framework that we have at the ministry. Because part of what we're doing is to ensure that we develop a national livestock policy. And to transition the Jamaica Dairy Development Board, not to just focus on dairy development, but to really focus on livestock development, so that our small ruminant farmers have a space and a place in the ministry that they can get consistent support. The last thing that we're doing that we have to do is taking a greater stance against predial larceny. Because one of the biggest threats to the small ruminant sector, quite frankly, is predial larceny. And how we're doing that. One, we've been working with the JCF to firstly just treat predial larceny more seriously. Oftentimes when you used to go and report predial larceny, your reports used to go in a pool. And when a police officer have to think about a shooting, have to think about a rape, and then him think about predial larceny, the predial larceny fall way down the line. So what we're doing now, we're developing predial larceny units. So just like when you have a sexual offense, when you go to report it, it goes to a special unit. That is what is happening with Prayer Their Larceny now. And we plan to put a unit in each division. We have already developed 7 Prayer Their Larceny units across the country. Those Prayer Their Larceny units are staffed with at least 4 officers, 4 to 5. We have a motor vehicle that is assigned to the team. So when you go to make your reports, you can get quicker service. In fact, we're already reaping some rewards. We saw last year that our arrests in Prayer Their Larceny moved between 2019 to 2020, we moved by 80% in our arrests. So we're moving from 69 to over 100 arrests last year. Still more work to be done, but we're seeing the increase. Already our operations moved by 114%. What it means, more police on the ground doing random checks, doing stops. So we're moving in the right direction. What we plan to do is to continue to expand those Prayer Their Larceny units. Also, we want to get back what we call agricultural wardens. So we want to put people with the power of like a district constable in our highly productive areas that have challenges with Prayer Their Larceny, so that you have somebody to go to, more boots on the ground to ensure that we're treating with the issue of Prayer Their Larceny. And the last thing is that before the end of this financial year, we're going to be changing the penalties for Prayer Their Larceny. Quite frankly, people are getting off too easy after reaping what they did not sow. So where we have a maximum fine of 250,000, it does not send a clear enough signal that this is unacceptable. So we're going to be moving to move those fines, and you can listen out for that before the end of this financial year. So we're taking a multi-pronged approach to really support the small ruminant sector. So I say to the farmers, please embrace the technology, work with our private sector partners, report incidents of Prayer Their Larceny so we can act on it together, but partner with us to drive our small ruminant sector forward. God bless you, everybody.
Minister Green and, Dr. Watson, we were at the event yesterday with the launch. And, I must repeat it that Dr. Watson is driving this entire new program that is going to be happening here now. And it is one of the best decisions that they have made, because he's such a capable person, and it is something very close to Dr. Watson. We, the Small Ruminants Association of Jamaica, have a very good working relationship with all the bodies. CADI, RADA, Veterinarian Division, the Ministry of Agriculture. I don't know if all of you know, but on our board, we actually have a member of every one of these government agencies on our board. So you can imagine the amount of support that we get from everybody, from all of these ministries. We really do get a lot of support. And we are always lobbying, and and we want help, and we always have people to turn to within the Ministry of Agriculture. Also with the private sector and Nutramix, I am here in this position here with a lot of knowledge. I'm still learning, and I hope I learned something new from Dr. Young today, because I'm always learning. But I think I've gotten a lot smarter, because a lot of the efforts of Nutramix and, the other teams that, from the government and so forth, that has taught me so much. I have learned so much. One of the things that I'm very passionate about is even the situation with parasites in the animal, internal parasites. And a lot of things are still being doing wrong in this country. And, with Dr. Young and our team, we have really learned a lot on how to how to treat the animals, it has been a very, very good, it has been very successful. The seminars and the training programs that have been taking place over the years. I remember Mr. Muller and I come from far, far, way, way back. I know him in another capacity. And we went to Denby Show, and at this time, I didn't know, about the cattle side so much. And, I went there and realized that they were doing embryo transplant in cattle. I knew about AI, but I didn't know that, Nutramix at the time was a part of, doing all of this, AI. So, Mr. Muller, can the small ruminant sector, can we, share in this that is happening? And he said to me, I don't know anything about small ruminants, Cattle, I'm a cattleman. I said, well, we need to bring you on board. And I asked him, and we had a discussion about it. The team that is here at Nutramix, he walked around that day. I don't know if he was seeing a goat for the first time, but he walked around and he started to look at the goats and, like the first time he was seeing it. And I noticed he started to talk to some of the farmers. That was my impression at the time. And he started to talk to the farmers, and, some of the farmers came back to me and said, they were talking to me and asking me different questions. And you know what happened? Soon after, a meeting was called to discuss AI, embryo, and all this kind of thing. And I can tell you, very soon after, the private sector, Nutramix, brought in semen. And I believe it started from right there. I believe all of this, from the private perspective, and from where I was at the time, this started right there. And we are where we are today. And, I am so happy that, the minister, he and I have spoken a few times. We met at Denby. I think him loved the curry goat and thing where we did do back then. And, him always said to me, boy, one day, soon come. And we are here today. We have been promised, and, you hear him talk about, so much things. Boy, it's a whole heap of things him promising to us. And we are here standing. We're going to try and execute and help the ministry as much as possible to move this industry forward, because this industry have the potential to employ a lot more people, to provide jobs for people. It is such an untapped industry. I always like to look at small ruminants, the small farmers. When you go into the countryside and so forth, small ruminants, the farmers, they kind of use the goat, the little tie-out goat and all of that situation. They use it like a bank. That's how I see it. Them sell some of them crops and then make a little money, and then buy a goat. Or we're going to grow that one until Christmas, and then buy 2 goats. It's better than a bank, because the multiplying effect of goat is so significant. So when they're ready to sell that ram come Christmas time, maybe them buy 2 female during the course of the year, they have some kids. That multiplying effect is so intense, right? So their money is better putting it into goat rearing, right? And I think, in my opinion, a lot of small farmers in the countryside who is rearing their 1 goat and the 2 goat and, half a dozen goat, I think this has an impact even there. But now, we are looking at intensive farming, and we want to push up this production, better genetics. Samuel Golden is here today, and we are glad to have him here with the Nutramix team. And with this genetic material that is here, milk is one of my, pet thing, that I think the milk industry for goat milk is so huge. And we can use genetics to improve milk, to improve the goat meat, and all the value-added things that are associated with it. So, Minister, and Nutramix, the Small Ruminants Association of Jamaica, we thank you all for your efforts and thank you for all that you have given to us over the years. And we look forward to working with you in the near future. Thank you.
Okay. Right. Everybody is still up and running. Nobody's sleeping as yet, right? Okay, good. Why did we call this event the GOAT seminar? Well, the reason goes far way beyond the obvious. As farmers ourselves, we know firsthand the toil to greatness and that our local farmers work towards each day. From the first beam of light inches on the horizon to the end of another productive day, the job as a farmer is very challenging, but an essential one. That is why we at Nutramix remain committed to helping our farmers achieve their respective greatness. Educating our farmers has always been our #1 priority in our quest in developing sustainable industries. Therefore, an event such as this is important to us as a company. We get the opportunity to introduce our Jamaicans to the future of agriculture, empower our local farmers, and help strengthen the local agricultural industry. With this, we believe there is greatness brewing in the small ruminant industry. The Nutramix Livestock Support Unit, led by Dr. Gabriel Young, one of our hosts for today's event, have been working assiduously with our industry key players and small ruminant farmers to improve feeding, breeding, and management practices associated with small ruminant production. For the industry to remain productive and sustainable, we must welcome change that can lead us to an industry that is self-sufficient. It's no secret a mere 30% of the goat meat and mutton consumed is produced locally. Nutramix is hopeful that we, along with the commitment of you, the local small ruminant farmers, can minimize importations and produce safe, quality goat meat and mutton for our Jamaican people. Farmers, we have an incredible opportunity to push this industry to greatness. Today, I challenge you to rethink the business of agriculture and the value of reproductive technologies, like artificial insemination and embryo transfer to Jamaica. The benefits to be derived from embracing, adopting, and implementing these technologies into your industry are endless. Thank you for taking that step towards greatness and signaling your commitment to creating a better, more sustainable small ruminant industry. I would like to also use this opportunity at this time to introduce to you the #1 small ruminant veterinarian in the Caribbean, Dr. Gabriel Young. Come on, Gabby.
I don't think I need this. My partner. All right, hold that. All right, hold that. No. This. Which one works? This. Take. Wait. There's a feedback. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. All protocols observed. We're really, really glad that you all could come here today. And the first thing we're going to do is talk about, is the meat of the matter, as I would call it, is where are we in the industry and where do we need to be and how do we get there? We want this to be an interactive session. Yes, we're talking to you, but if there's really a pressing question you need to ask, we prefer you just ask us. We like it to be interactive, so just ask us. There's an old Chinese saying, there's no dumb questions, there's only dumb answers. So the only dummy can be me. So ask any question that you want. You ask because you don't know, all right? So the state of the industry, where we are right now. These are the figures we get. I don't think there's been a recent censor, but this is the figures that we've got. We think there's about 380,000 heads of goats. I think sheep might be included in that. I'm not sure, but that's the figures that we get. And they do say that it has been an increase of about 22%. All right? I think those figures are not exact, but I guess that's where we're at the moment. The production units for mutton, which is sheep, right? Sheep meat, which is also maybe lamb. It has steadily declined from 2017 to 2020. And the numbers have declined, and also the dress weights have declined, and by extension, the weight of the carcasses have gone down. When we did a little quick calculation, we do know that the dressed weight for a sheep at the moment, or lamb maybe carcass, is about 20 kgs, which is about 44 pounds, right? So they do, and then I will show you what's going on with goats now. With goats, the population has decreased also. We do believe a lot has to do with predial larceny. Every goat farmer here probably has a million stories they can tell of who has lost goats, how many goats they've lost. Within the last year, I know of maybe 200 herd goats, 2 sets of 200 herds of goats that have been, heads of goats, sorry, that have been lost by farmers. So that impacts production significantly. But to me, these figures are there. Anybody wants them, they can have them. But the most significant figure for me, too, was when I looked at the dress weight relative to the number of goats that were slaughtered. And what you find is that the dress weight of the goats actually is a lot lower than the sheep. The dress weights of the goats is about 20 pounds. It was about 25 pounds. Right? So that suggests we might be having a problem. Is it a nutritional problem? Is it a genetics problem? Are we not feeding them right? And why is it that the sheep, they do dress a lot better than goats, but I didn't expect that the figure would be that off for the dressing percentage. So we really have to look at our goats. If we're looking at a meat market, we have to look at it a little differently. Did that go forward? Right. Imports of mutton or sheep meat, right? Those are much, much higher than goat meat, by the way. A lot of what is consumed locally is mutton. And mutton means old sheep. Mutton is a sheep that is over 1 year old, probably 5, 6 years old from the figure, from the stats that I get. And a lot of it is old carcasses, right? You cannot compare mutton meat to fresh lamb and fresh chevron or fresh goat meat. 2 different things, okay? So a lot of what is imported is mutton, which is old sheep meat, right? And we're looking at a US dollar figure of $11 million or 1.5 billion Jamaican dollars, or 1.6 almost billion Jamaican dollars. That's a lot of money. This market is, I don't know, my arms aren't long enough, this big. Right? So there's no problem with competition, and this is why we really believe, when we looked at our figures, we really, really believe, am I blocking anybody? Yeah. We really, really believe that this is, we push for this thing because we think the government also sees the figures, and it has the greatest potential to grow. 1.5 or 1.55 billion Jamaican dollars. I mean, if every one of us here got even 10% of that, we'd be good, or 1%, right? So that's what we're talking about, and it's mutton, right? Now we go to the goat. It's not even a percentage, a very small percentage of goat meat that is imported. 200,000 US dollars, or 31 million Jamaican dollars. So what is really happening? Is it goat meat that we're importing, or mutton? We know it's mutton. So this concept, I keep arguing with people where consumers say, I don't eat mutton, or I don't eat old sheep meat. They have been eating old sheep meat for a very long time, right? So again, these are the figures. Anybody wants them? It's just to show you what's been happening and the value, the dollar value of this industry. The dollar value of this industry, all right? I got this from the FAO that shows import dependency, right? And Jamaica, our import dependency is 66%, This was a 2014 figure, though. It might have changed a little bit, but this is a 2014 figure, and the import dependency in Jamaica is 66%, which means we import 66% of what we consume. But interestingly, so we're talking about Jamaica, and we don't have enough goat meat or lamb or mutton even to consume locally. But what is happening in the region? Look at that. Trinidad and Tobago, which I hail from, 97% import dependency, right? And they have a pretty good, they have a better GDP than we do. So why not even look at export? But we need to first satisfy our local supply, and then we can look at export. Maybe again, we can export at a higher price. So again, the value of the industry will be better, all right? Barbados, again, with a good GDP. Bahamas, good GDP, 92% import dependency for Bahamas and 90%. So let's see how we can really work this industry, people. This is to sensitize you all as to what is happening externally also. So what we did is we decided, because all the time farmers I'm on different social media forums, and even when I meet with you farmers, they always ask, what's the cost of developing a farm, right? And nobody really put figures to it, so we decided to put some figures to it. So we did two scenarios for you all. We looked at what is called a small to medium-sized, mid-sized farmer, which would need about 2 hectares of land, which 2 hectares is about maybe 5 acres of land. And then we looked at a much larger commercial operation with 20 hectares, which ends up being about 50 acres of land. And we believe with a commercial-sized operation, what we're talking about is one family can run that, mother, father, 2 kids maybe, and that should produce a decent enough income to support the family. So you will now be a full-time farmer. We look at the knowledge intensity. This is important. Farmers, we're going to talk about the different models that work, but we need to know that you can understand that we're going to talk about, do you need to be a multiplier? Do you just need to be finishing animals? Everybody cannot be a breeder, and that's the reality of it, okay? So these are the production models that are in place at the moment, and do they work? Some don't work. This one at the top is, this one at the top says integrated breeding, multiplication, and fattening. This is what most of us as farmers do. We breed our animals, they have babies, and then we finish them, and then we sell them to market. That's what we do, right? The other options are you can have a breeder and multiplier unit, and then they sell those offspring to somebody to finish. And then you also have the breeder unit that specializes in purebreds. They might sell some purebreds to a multiplier farm. This multiplier farm will now multiply and sell the finished animal, sell weaned animals to a finisher who will finish them. Now, farmers, why do we want to do it like, why maybe we want to separate? Because sometimes you need to divide to conquer in a way. When you try to, and I've been with CB for about, 19 years now, okay? And I'm going to tell you something. When you try to do the breeding yourself, then the multiplying yourself, then the finishing yourself, it's not as easy as you think it is. It is very difficult because you're dividing and you're not conquering, right? You can't do everything well, right? So what we're thinking is, we think actually the middle unit for small ruminants, this one works very well for pigs, but we think the middle unit might be the best one for small ruminants, where we have breeder/multipliers that will breed animals, and then they will sell the weaners to a finishing site that will finish the animals, okay? Now, why will that model work for you? Many reasons. The model will work for farmers, I think, very well, because if you are a breeder and multiplier, you can focus on that alone, breeding and multiplying, and then you sell your weaners to somebody, right? What is going to happen is you're going to find that that space that you would have now kept your finishing animals, which do take up a lot of space, you can now have females there instead, right? So then your unit cost for breeding goes down. We're talking about economies of scale, right? So that you're not keeping up floor space with finishers that take 7 months, 6 to 7 months to get ready. That space can now be house a female, and she can, in that 6, 7 months, have another set of babies. Do we understand what's happening? And then that finisher person can now finish for you. CB is looking at that model right now, because guess what too? We're going to take that animal from you as a weaned animal, right? But guess what? We have the feed to feed them. We have the forages to feed them, so that now it becomes a more profitable unit for the whole sector. And don't discount what I just said. We have this security to keep them. When is the most times you'll lose animals? Tell me. December, but what are you losing? They don't come necessarily for the females. What do they come for? The ram, right? So they're waiting. Remember, they're waiting in the bush washing your ram, right? And say, okay, next month, okay, right? But what you're doing is taking away that incentive from them. They are not going to be stealing a 2-month-old ram. They're not. So if you take away that incentive, you're going to find that maybe they're not going to come at you so hard, right? But we do have the security. We do have the ability to feed those animals. And then again, you have a more consistent carcass going to the market. That makes sense a little bit? All right. So maybe, we can go that direction, right? So some of the costs you need to take into is that, are you going to be an extensive farmer, which is like this, where you're going to have lots of land? You need more land if you're extensive, where you're going to graze the animals, versus your intensive, right? Which is like this, where you're going to house them and feed them with a cut and carry system. And the cost is going to be a little bit different. Extensive has a lower labor cost, lower carrying cost, but you have a higher security risk, right? How many farmers have told me the animal goes out and they don't come back in, right? Intensive, you have that security a little closer to you, but you do have a higher labor cost, and you do have a higher carrying cost of the facility. I dare say also too, I think you may even have a better health management of your animals in intensive, depending if you feed them right. So again, with every industry, we have to know, what are you aiming for? Are you aiming for meat, or are you aiming for milk? If you're aiming for meat, you might want to look at the boars and boar crosses. The Nubian might play a part in it also. And then again with sheep, well, we do sheep mainly for meat, Catardins and Dorpers. Are you looking at a milk lines? Again, Nubians may play a part in that. We may also look at Sarnins and Alpines, okay? So just showing you, depends on what your focus is going to be, is what you're going to choose as your breeds, okay? So, now the business part of it, right? I had to make some assumptions. And again, people, this is not like a business plan that you can necessarily take to the bank, but it does show you the basics, okay? So I assumed that for a 50-door unit, which is what I think a lot of my farmers are hitting towards, they're looking to 30 to 50-door units, you're going to buy you need 2 very good bucks. If the smaller the unit, to me, the better the buck has to be, because you don't have that numbers game playing with, okay? So I'm looking at 2 bucks, 2 really nice bucks at about $120,000 each. That's the figure. Could be more, right? And 50 doors, and I don't need the best doors. I can have pretty good doors at about $50,000 per animal. The cost for my housing, because I really think that makes a big difference, is about 3,000 Jamaican dollars per square meter. Now, I'm not talking about slatted floors and all the fandangles. I'm talking a basic shed, uprights, A-frame, and some partitioning inside, okay? And I'm looking at the cost to fence about 10 acres at $90,000 per acre. That's the figure I work with even in my area, right? We know that there's 8 animal units per acre, whether it's a sheep or a goat, right? And the cost to maintain that pasture is about $48,000 an acre. The labor requirements is at $480,000 a year. I'm looking at, now that's for 2, but each, I really think for a 50-door unit, you can have 1 person. I think so, right? But it's up to you, right? Transportation estimated cost $200,000. I put that in there because I was looking at, you might have to pick up diesel, you might have to pick up grass for sometimes, fertilizers, those kind of things. It does come at a cost. And you do need to maintain your pastures, $15,000 per hectare, considering you're going to be applying a fertilizer also in addition to your manure, okay? Feed costs, we look at $20,000 per animal per year, considering 1 pound per animal per day. But looking at now remember, your grains cost is more costly than your grass cost, okay? But grass, let me be straight, yeah, I won't lose my job. He says I can say it, right? Ruminants need their diet to be majority forages, not grains. Not greens. Grasses, hay, whatever forages, you have the mulberry, the trichantera, all of these nice high-protein forages. Please look into establishing a forage bank or fodder bank. Medication costs $500 per animal per year. Land rent is $15,000 per acre if you're leasing. And then your utilities cost, JPS is one of your biggest costs, $240,000 a year. We're looking at taking a loan at a 70% financing, right? I don't know, Minister, will that happen? But no, I'm going to give you the figures, right? Now, we're looking at 1.4 kiddings a year, because what we're going to say is you can have, every 8 months, you should be able to have a set of kids. We know that, right? Yeah. Okay? And with goats are much better than sheep. We have about a net litter size of about 1.8, right? And then, of course, eventually we'll be slaughtering breeding females as they get older at $30,000 per animal. That's a meat value, I'm thinking. Mr. Muller says that's too cheap. He thinks it's more than that, but I use the lower figure, right? And then you can sell your manure. Farmers are selling manure, minimum $400 a bag, and there's higher people who sell at a higher price. So with all of that now, this is my cap. This is what I'm going to ask for financing. To buy my breeding stock, to put up my shelter, to fence my 10 acres, equipment, let's say a cutter, I put that in equipment, let's say a cutter and maybe, I don't know, whatever else. What do they call those things? Weed whackers, to establish our forage pastures, $480,000, and a miscellaneous investment cost. And so we think for 50-door unit, you should be able to start up with $5.5 million, okay? You're going to get it financed, I'm not saying for you to find $5.5 million. We're talking about financing, right? So I hope you all can see this. So look at the revenues for my 50-door unit, right? I'm going to sell my kids. 50-door unit, I should get at least 100 saleable kids, right? No, I needed to change that. We had lowered it a little bit. I had lowered it a little bit. But anyway, $4.5 million from the kids, right? I'm going to consider it for the first year, and I'm going to consider that I'm going to maybe get a 10% mortality, right? The sale of the manure, I might get $100,000 per year. Cull animals, I'm going to get $600,000 per year. And these are my various labor costs that we went into there. Transportation. You see, we have the financing cost, what you're going to put back, what you're going to pay back the bank. And then, of course, your miscellaneous costs. So why I left those in red is those might vary a little bit, but we looked at it at 8% interest on the loan. And look at your feed costs is $1 million. So most farmers are going to say, oh, my God, $1 million in feed. But anyway, so your total cost might come up to $2.8 million. But when we run the figures, right, the investment of $5.5 million, look at the return on investments. And this wasn't done by me, by the way. I'm not that bright. This was done by one of our certified accountants, right, who are really bright. And they checked everything. And the return on investment in 5 years, 29.2%, which means how fast do you get back your money, right? So or I put it in my silly way, is that I asked him, so if I took my $5.5 million, what you're saying here with this return on investment is that at the end of 5 years, if I took that same $5.5 million, he said to me, yeah, you would get an interest rate of 29% on your money. No bank gives you that. No bank or investment company, unless it's a pyramid scheme, gives you that. And as you go along, your return on investment gets even better, right? In year 7, 35.2%, and the payback period is 4.5 or 5 years. You don't go into goat farming overnight. You go into it for a reason, for a time period. And look at that. No bank gives you that return. No bank or investment scheme gives you that return. 50-door unit. So what I did is I ran it now for the 300 doors, right? So it's the same assumptions, basically. I can give you the same assumptions that I did, so you don't have to go through all of this again. Let's just get to the figures. I just changed the assumptions with the number of animals, right? So look at that. Breeding stock will be $15.5 million. The shelter, of course, will go up because you need more floor space, $4.5 million. You're fencing more land. We're now at 20 acres. And equipment, again, the cutter, still, same cutter could probably work, or you might need a better one. You want to establish a pasture. It's going to be more money because it's more land, right? And your miscellaneous investment costs. So $24.2 million. So again, you're like, oh my goodness, right? But then look at the figures again. We ran the figures, right? I now have to pay back the bank $2.5 million, right? But look at that. I get back in revenue $28 million with a cost of about $19, maybe $20 million, okay? And this is what the math says. Math does not lie, right? And the accountant, he's very good. He doesn't lie either. $24.2 million investment. Return on investment is it's a little less, but still 21.3% in 5 years, and in 10 years, 27% return on your money with a payback period of 3.1 years. That's it. So goat farming. Again, there's, like I said, I didn't cover everything. I maybe, yeah, sure.
Did this cover intensive or extensive?
This is intensive. This is intensive. This is intensive. The return might be even better for extensive or grazing situation, but God help you with the 2-foot rats. God help you with that, right? Yeah, right? And again, what is nice about intensive, I'm a big fan of intensive, is guess what? You can, the carrying capacity of the land can be about 3 times than if you graze it. Correct, correct. Especially, I'm a big fan of king grass, right? If you plant an acre of African star, and then you plant an acre of king grass, you have 3 times the African star is about this high, the king grass is like this high, you have 3 times the biomass. You can technically feed 3 times the carrying capacity of the land. No, it's forages. It's forages. They can be fed. Either one can be fed. And a fertilized king grass is pretty good. It's pretty good. It can have a 14% or better crude protein. Yeah. All right, so that's it for me. Any questions? No? Okay. You have a question?
All right, Doc. Thank you. Cavon Golding, representing Gold Spring Farm. And I see you have partnered with Goldmine Farm with Samuel Golding.
Yeah.
And here you have Nutramix. In all this, say for example now, I decide seriously to go into this intensive way of rearing my animals. Would Nutramix be readily available to accept my fatteners?
Yes.
You have the
You don't
facility.
even have to finish.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll ask another question sometime.
No, that's definitely it. That's the model we're looking to do. Yeah. Yeah. Again, remember I said we have the security, we have the feed, and we can take on that challenge easily.
Sorry, is there a time frame that we're looking at to...
For which one?
For the fatteners or...
The finishers,
small-
us taking the
Yes.
finishers?
I may help her to answer.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's kind of almost a new concept, that side of the business for us, right? It is something that we're looking at in a very serious way. But you would appreciate that there are some things that we need to have in place at our facility first, right? So we are trying now to work on those, you know, all what we need to do, housing, forages, and stuff like those. So once we have that in place, then we can start, you know, looking for animals. But the truth is, it's something we are going to take on. Yes.
And again, how many farmers are interested? I interviewed a few because we did a little survey, and they seem very interested because when they look at the model, they realize, again, think about it. You don't have to keep the thing that they steal the most. And now you have more forest space to grow your female herd, your breeding stock herd. And that's where the money is at. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I hear Mr. Thomas and you talk about forages and doing your feedlot. Are you planning to sell forages?
Yes.
Okay. You have a timeline when you think that will happen?
Which one?
Again, Mr. Bernard, the timeline we would not be able to give you today because, like I said to you, it's a new concept. It's something we're just trying to get into operation. So I don't want to say to you 6 months or 5 months, but we are working on it and we're trying to partner with somebody else to get that aspect done. It's actually a government agency. And once we have that in place, all the farmers in Jamaica will become aware.
Okay.
I've been with Nutramix for over 40 years.
We thank
And I
you.
think what is happening, there's a missing link. And what I'm hearing today is that missing link. Yes. And if there's that tripartite approach from the farmer to the embryos and the imported animals that are coming in and so on, so we can get a faster growth rate, it would excite us as farmers to instead of thinking of planting banana or so, we can be raising some goats,
Yep.
right? Or even more goats.
Yep.
So this to me is a turning point, and I wish it all the best.
Thank you. All right, next is UK. Oh, Winnie. This is forward, this is back.
I really don't want you to think that I'm taking over this seminar because you're seeing me up here for so many times today, right? But I guarantee you this is the last time I'm going to be here. And this time I'm going to be so short, you're not going to realize that I'm here, right? So just let us go through this quickly. I just want to speak a little bit, though, about feeding of the ruminants. And I'm not a vet. I'm only a trained agriculturalist. So the veterinary side of it belongs to the vets, right? But I work in the feed industry for a number of years, and I would have seen your ration being developed, being built, and being made available. And one of the things that I notice a lot of farmers pay attention to is the feeding, how they feed, what they feed, when they feed. And I always say this, I work for a feed company, but if you are in the business of taking care of animals, do not think of Nutramix feed first. Don't. I sell feed for a living, but I am not going to encourage any farmer who are doing ruminant production to think of Nutramix feed first. Think of your forage. That is the first thing. Get good quality forage into your animals. And then your supplement feed should be Nutramix and no other. So I usually start with this little slide, and it has 3 things on it. It says the trifecta, that's 3. If you know about horse racing, you know 1, 2, 3, that's a trifecta. So it's genetics, it's nutrition, and it's management. Now, any farmer in Jamaica who wants to be successful, if you do not master and appreciate these 3, forget it. You're going to be making jokes, and you're going to be losing your money. You must conquer all 3. This forms the core. This is the nucleus of what you're going to get your returns from, right? With good genetics, you're starting with good animals. The animals must be backed up by proper nutrition, which is Nutramix feed and good hay. And then the third one is your management. You cannot, farmers, skip any of these. You must have all 3. And that is one of the reasons why we have a Dr. Young with a livestock support team. Because we are partnered with Goldmine to give you the best genetic possible. We have continued in the lab, in the feed mill with Mr. Mueller over there, who is our general manager, and our nutritionist to continue to give the best feed for your animals. And Dr. Young's team, the livestock support, they are over on that side. Those guys have the expertise in managing your farm. So take all three and take this from Nutramix. This is your trifecta for success. Your nutrition, your management, and your genetics. And here it is. We're providing proper nutrition for your animals. We're providing management training through seminars, workshops, and farm visits. And we're also providing quality genetics out of North America. We have 2 rations that we currently supply to the market to the farmers. We have a goat ration and we have a lamb and ram. The lamb and ram was specifically developed for the sheep farmers. But lo and behold, sheep and goats, they are so closely genetically related that the feed can be spread across both species. What we have found, and many farmers have said this to me, is when they feed the young animals with the lamb and ram, they get a much faster growth than the goat feed. But as they transition from young into adults, then they continue to feed them the goat ration. And of course, it's a little cheaper, so it's a little savings on your pocket. And one of the reasons for that, right, is that the contents of the ram and lamb, especially the protein, is of a higher content than the goat ration. And if you take more material to create a higher protein feed, then naturally it's going to be a little more expensive. That's the only difference right there. This is our goat grower, and on our label, you can see it's a 17.5% ration. The 17.5 is just the protein content. It has a 5% fat for your energy. But this is kind of the difference between the ram and lamb and the goat grower. It's a protein content, like I mentioned before. This is the super feed, the ram and lamb. Look at the label and look at what it says. All the farmers in Jamaica that are into small ruminant production should know these 2 feeds. You should. There's no other that you should know. Good. And what is critical, farmers? And again, I say the analysis counts. It matters. It's the protein content. When you feed this ration to the kids, the baby goats and the lambs, you would be amazed at the growth rate that you get from these animals. They grow so fast. Farmers usually ask, what quantities do they feed, right? What amount should I feed? Well, for the adult animals, I usually recommend about 1 pound to 2 pounds of ration as a supplement on a daily basis. So it's 1 to 2 pounds of either the ram and lamb or goat ration to your adult animals on a daily basis. For the babies, the kids, I usually feed what we call ad lib. That is, they have access to the feed 24 hours a day. How do you prevent mommy from getting to the feed that the baby is supposed to get? We usually create an area that we call the creep feed area. So you make it so that there's a small opening where the kids can get in there, but the adults cannot. And you set a little container, put the feed there so the babies can always go in and feed and get back out to visit mom. But the babies, if you want real good growth, you should always ensure that they have the ration 24 hours a day. Make sense? Understand? Come on, man, we're sleeping. Good, excellent, thanks. Contained in the ration is ammonium chloride. What this does, and it is very, very important, it helps to prevent urinary calculi. That is what you refer to as stoppage of water in the male goats, when they cannot pass their urine because of stones that block the urinary passage. So both rations contain ammonium chloride. We also include sodium bicarbonate, which we use to reduce the incidence of bloat. Bloat is an accumulation of gas in the stomach of the animals. When fermentation takes place in the rumen, if you understand a ruminant with a 4-compartment stomach, in the rumen, there's fermentation and it gives off a gas. When that accumulates in the rumen, it causes bloat. Now, the sodium bicarbonate neutralizes the pH and controls the bloat. Salmon oil, which is a good source of omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin E. And also we use alfalfa, which is a plant legume in our feed. And it really aids in digestion because it's a plant legume, high in protein. Concentrate, like I said before, should be fed as a supplement and not a main diet. Always feed the best available hay or grass first, and then your concentrate feed. And hopefully, like I said, Nutramix feed. Feed young animals ad lib all the time. Feed creep feed, and mature animals 1 to 2 pounds per day. We have said this before. We also offers you what we call our free choice minerals for goat and sheep, Nutravit. The Nutravit minerals, we said free choice, which means the animals should be able to eat it as they wish. So you get a container, you put your minerals, you put it in a corner in the pen that the animals have access, that they can get it all the time. They will only take as much as their body requires. So they will go in from time to time, and we'll notice they will lick small amounts of it, and then they back off of it. So they will eat as their body needs, because a lot of tropical grass that you feed to your goats do not contains your essential microelements. So these are given them to them in the form of your Nutravit minerals. Do we understand that and the importance of it? Oh, really? That's it? That was really short. Thank you very much. Thanks. And now we will have Mr. Sam Golden. Where's the mic?
Sorry, we had a little mix-up there. Okay, but my one is going to be really quick because you all really want to hear from Sam anyway, so I'm that boring. All right, so what... You sure? Which one? You sure? Okay, just going to go through quickly the Caribbean experience we've had in AI, and then we're going to get Save the Best for last from Sam, right? So why do we do AI? What it is, you're going to introduce semen into the female's reproductive tract without the use of the male. And he's going to tell you all the benefits and the disadvantages, so I don't need to go through that. But to me, this picture says it all. When you have a guy looking like that, I mean, he's just really sexy, you know? He has everything going on about him. Nice face, nice body, you know, really sexy looking guy. So, but why does AI work? We need to talk about this for just a second, is that you really need to select the right females. If you do not select the right females, it's not going to work for you, okay? There's no amount of poking and prodding is going to help you. They have to be in good health. They have to have a good body condition score, and we can talk a little bit more about that. And we're going to talk about it when we do the practical demonstration too, so you all can see all of that. We do recommend that you flush the females. And the only way to really flush females in the Caribbean is to apply grains, right? With high protein, high energy feeds. Ram and lamb really works well for that. And I find that by flushing them, you get better fertility, and it also increases your litter size. We'll get to that. They must be disease-free, and you prefer that they have previously given birth, but we have been breeding some virgin animals, and they're a little more difficult just because the anatomy is a little smaller. Okay? But we've been working well with both of them. So why we say that the female is important, I'm going to go quickly, is, how about this? Anybody wants to breed this? But that's actually a goat that a farmer presented, right? So body condition score of 1 or almost a 0. That animal is not looking to breed, it's looking to survive, right? What about this one? Again, a no breeder, right? But again, I'm showing you this, not to embarrass farmers, but to show you the situations that we are presented with sometimes. And this animal is suffering, or both of them, from what we call agroceriosis, lack of groceries, right? That's a disease condition, lack of groceries, okay? So this is what we want more, a body condition score of about a 3. We don't want a fat animal, right? She has to look nice size. We're going to talk about feeling their backbones, their pelvis, and their ribs, right? This is a nice 3. That's what we'll be looking at, right? And then you have this now, which is a little too fat, bordering on a little too fat, right? And this was a North Carolina doe that we were looking at many years ago. So she's on the heavier side, all right? So how do we, because farmers always ask me, Doc, how do we do the AI and what do we need to do? And so today is, if I wanted to start my program, I'll start on, or we always start the programs on a Monday to Wednesday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you'll see why it falls on the day that we need to breed them. So we insert the seeders in the morning, right? And then 7 days later, we will pull the seeders and give some drugs, right? And these seeders can actually stay minimum 7 days, and they can stay longer to all 18 days, depending on what we're trying to do. And then, of course, we do a timed AI in the afternoon. Now, like I said, we always do start the programs on a Monday to a Wednesday, and then we finish the programs or breed on a Wednesday to a Friday. Yes, sir?
For the dumb people, what is the seeder?
A seeder, good point. A seeder is controlled internal drug release, or a seeder is the vaginal implant, which has some drugs called progesterone in it. And it's all natural progesterone, by the way. No funky business, right? Natural progesterone, right? And it's there to stop the animal from cycling so we can breed her when we need to breed her. Does that help, sir? Okay, good. So which AI do? We do transcervical AI. Reason being is transcervical AI is the accepted technique because it's what's used in cattle also. So what you're trying to do is you're basically going to be inserting the rod, passing it through the cervix, and this is where it becomes difficult, and depositing the semen in the body of the uterus so that the little guys can swim up to the horns on either side, okay? Because we don't know which side that egg is going to be coming down on. So it's really important that you deposit it in the body of the uterus here, okay? So why do we want to do that? If you just look at the conception rates, vaginal insemination, which is normally what bucks do, by the way, for natural service, but you need 3.3 to 4 billion sperm cells, okay? When you look transcervical, the conception rate goes up for frozen and fresh semen, but you need less sperm cells. And that's what makes AI economical from a standpoint that you can have access to all these beautiful males at a fraction of the cost. Some of these males by Sam, he can tell you, some of these males in the US, 25,000 US, 50,000 US for them. Nobody's going to sell you that, and I won't buy it, right? Because next thing you know, he just walked down the road and he breaks his leg, right? But guess what? You still have access to his semen at a fraction of the cost, okay? And his semen is him, okay? So what do we need is the equipment. This is some of our equipment we use to do the AI. The farmers that have done it, quite a few here, they can see what it looks like. Then we're going to prepare, of course, and we do it on farm with all the flies, but we try to make sure that we are as clean as possible in what we do. And then, of course, we use a stand to put the animal in to restrain it. And then we insert the speculum. Minister, we were going to ask you to do it, but then we said maybe you might, right? We're going to ask you. We brought an animal, but we said we don't know if you could manage that. So anyway, you're going to insert the speculum at a 45-degree. You hear that, Minister? You're paying attention. 45-degree angle, right? Lubricated speculum, right? Then you're going to we insert an atraumatic forceps, right? So we can manipulate the cervix. Then you get some really cool pictures for you guys, if you all have never seen inside. This is the atraumatic forceps. And this is cervix right here. That's what we're going to go grab or get at, right? And we're really going to pass the semen through the semen rod through there and deposit the semen into the body of the uterus, right? And that's us going through the cervix. If you go back through that hole there, that's cervical os. And you can see this animal's in actually great heat. There's a lot of nice clear mucus there showing you that she's in very good heat. Yes, sir? Yes, we thaw the semen at a very specific temperature using a thaw unit. Good question, right? And if you don't do that, the semen will die. So we thaw the semen, good point, and then we deposit it slowly into the cervix, passing the cervix and into the body of the uterus. And that's it. The inserted AI rod, you can see it here coming out. We deposit the semen slowly. You don't just push the semen in, you damage it. So you take time and deposit the semen, like everything else you should take time with, right? And that's the AI rod in the cervix showing you what's happening, right? And that's us pulling the rod out slowly. We wash and dry all the equipment. Make sure we use chlorhexidine to make sure everything is really squeaky clean between inseminations, and we wash off all the detergent. And this is it, 42 days later, we do a preg check, and this is it, we get babies. How many babies do we have here? Anybody, for a big prize? One, you lose. 3, so one prize there, Winnie, right? 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay? 3 babies. All right? So this is what happens. 145, 147 days later, these are some of the babies. Okay? These are boars. Again, some more boars that we had August 2019. These were born 2019. We took the picture in 2020, right? Growing. And these are some Nubians again, right? And some graded animals also. So some of the challenges we always have with AI is finding a suitable female, okay? Again, I showed you some of the pictures. Putting the females on a proper nutritional plane, making sure they're disease-free, parasite-free, and farm management is the most critical point. We have been on farms and we do the AI, and then we come back a week later and the person is trimming hooves and then they're spraying the animal, and you don't do that. Within that 30 days after breeding, it's critical. Stress-free, calm, no nothing. You just leave her, feed her, and that's it. Really important. Some of the things we're having problems with is logistics of travel again. This is why we talk to farmers, and it's always been brought up, oh, Nutramix says they only want 5 animals. Because it costs us, sir. It costs us to get to you, and it's 3 to 4 visits to do an AI, because we help the farmers with that. So again, I'm not asking you necessarily to have 5 animals, but you might have 2, your neighbor has 2, your other neighbor has 2, that equals 6. All right? So we're looking at economics and the ability to source imported semen that meets Jamaica's health requirements. Again, Jamaica has very high health requirements. I have to say kudos to Dr. Watson for that. He keeps the island safe, right, which is really important. But again, very stringent measures, but it's there for a reason, okay? We have the ability to export animals very easily because of that high health requirement. It's true, yeah? The world recognizes it. And the world recognizes it. Well, some would say that. So conception rate, average about 55% we're averaging now. We range from a 30 to 90%, big range, but again, depends on the farm we go to. A lot depends on the farm. We have a kidding rate of about 2.4, sorry. We have lots of multiples. The birth weight has gone up to 3.5 to 4 kgs per kid. Before it was about 2.5 to 2.8 per kid. And we do have some late-term abortions, but most of the time it leads back to nutrition and poor management. Other things available in Jamaica for the assisted breeding techniques. We do laparoscopic AI in goats and sheep. We've done it at Bodles before and other farms. The success rate is a lot lower though, people, okay? It's a much more technical procedure. And this is these are some of the frozen embryos that we thawed at Bodles, and this is a picture of it. But this is just showing you a graphic of what we're looking for as the embryos and the different stages of the cells that the embryos are in. And these are some of the ET embryo transfer offspring that were at Bodles from the project in 2014. Purebred Dorpers, purebred Catardins, and these animals are still there doing very well, all right? And lessons learned. All of these techniques, AI and embryo transfer, are applicable in the Caribbean. And I dare say even more so because of the cost of transport. You cannot transport the disease risk from one live animal, and he comes with, now you look at him today, he looks fine. A week from now or a month from now when you get him, you don't know what he's coming with. And then you come into your herd and then you can lose everything, right? I believe it should be used in preference to live animal imports. A lot of the farmers now believe in the technology. They're seeing what it can do for them. And again, a lot of the governments in the Caribbean are advocating for it. And again, as we keep on going along with AI and practicing and getting better, and we say practice not because we don't know what we're doing. As you do more and more animals and you practice, you get better. That's just the reality of it. But also I would like to say something that one of my when we went to pick up the first tank of semen, when we went to pick up Sam's tank of semen, actually, one of the officers, we were traveling back in from Mobe, and he says to me, "Doc, isn't this great?" So I said, "What?" He says, "Imagine we have over 700 animals or potential animals in a tank behind our seat." And I said, "Yeah, you know, that's really awesome." And it's true. And at a fraction of the cost that it would have cost us to bring in a live animal. One. Okay? Thank you. That's it. And we saved the best for last now. No questions. Okay.
Are you going back again?
No. I'm tired. So green is forward, red is back.
All right, guys. I am struggling with my voice. Greetings from Texas, guys. Before I go into my presentation, I just wanted to let you know how humbled I am. I remember as a kid coming to Denby Showground, you would always find me where the cows, the goats, and a few pigs were. That was just my thing. You wouldn't find me around the merry-go-round. You wouldn't find me at the stage show. I'd be dancing in the goat pen, but you wouldn't find me in the... So this is just like a happy reunion for me. I'm excited. And the reason why I'm excited is that there's no time like the present to be in agriculture. There's no time like the present to be a goat farmer. One point that Dr. Young alluded to earlier was the fact that the economic impact of goat rearing, the quick turnaround on your money, return on your investment, and that is huge. That is something that folks need to factor. Before I go any further, I also want to recognize the fact that I see some beautiful queens inside of here, and I am just excited that the goat owners and breeder population is diversifying, where I'm seeing young folks, I'm seeing beautiful queens also. So that just uplifts my spirit. So we're going to just talk a little bit about, AI. Doc had just mentioned some key components of it. I may just, my watered-down version, I'll just share with you guys. So are you able to hear me well? Thanks. So just a definition of AI. It is pretty much an assisted reproductive technology used by depositing semen in the uterus of the female. And you saw Dr. Young earlier what she did. It's a tool also for improving the reproductive performance and genetic quality of your livestock. Bear with me. Why would you want to utilize AI in your herd? One, you're introducing new genetics. You guys would have seen some of the Facebook samples of the genetics that came through from the US, and that is just a means of diversifying your existing genetics. Our genetics was getting quite saturated, even though, kudos to the farmers, I must say, we have some good animals in Jamaica. So don't get disheartened. Don't feel like your work has been in vain. We just need to take the baton on and move the needle a little bit further. Semen are coming from different sires with proven performance standards. These animals are proven in the show ring for conformation, and they're proven on the ranch for their productivity in most times outproducing themselves. So one of the reasons why I select my bucks to stay in my herd is I want an animal that is not just going to produce him, but has the potential to outproduce himself. Once I realize that he's not consistently producing at a minimum his quality, he gets out of my herd. And I'm known to be a breeder that calls very heavily. A couple other things why you want it is, we're starting to, the beauty of this is, and this is how the goat business is changing, where folks are talking about the milk side and the meat side. And now they're differentiating the representation of both. With AI, you're definitely looking at On the dairy side, you're looking at conformation. You know, if it's a Nubian, you're looking at the nose, you're looking at all the cool stuff, the body conformation, you're looking at the headset. And critical conversation that needs to continue to happen is the udder attachment and milking capacity. We cannot talk about dairy goats and the beauty and the aesthetics and the exotics of a Nubian goat or any dairy goat without talking about what really matters. And it is the milking ability or the udder attachment that influences the milking ability. Boar, of course, you know, I've spoken to several breeders who say, hey, you know, I'm not a breeder, I'm here for meat. And so, you know, ultimately, the reason why farmers or goat breeders are in this is for meat. Irrespective of whether you choose to go into the full-blood side, your bottom line is you're going to make sure that you're producing animals that enhance their ability to produce more meat. And so for the boars, you look at the conformation, of course, and bottom line, how does this convert into an animal that potentially will produce more meat? With AI, I also get guaranteed genetics. One of the requirements I have on my ranch is all my studs after 6 months old that I select as replacement studs for myself or animals that will be moving on to other ranches is you have to be DNA verified. And I'm one of those folks you call a pedigree freak. I am crazy about the pedigree. In fact, when I look at sales that are in the US, before I look at the animals, I select what I would like by looking at the pedigree before I even look at the picture. So at times you have the ability to click on the picture or picture and pedigree. I choose to look on the pedigree, and then I say, well, you know, I look at the picture. So my focus is usually on the pedigree of the animal. A couple other things, you know, there's a terminology we use in the US called ennobled bloodlines or ennobled genetics. Pretty much you're using a sire or a stud that is proven. He has show points, and his progeny or his kids also have been successfully recognized as animals that represent the breed standards in the show ring. Another cool thing going on right now, you would have seen a diverse buck selection. In the shipment that Nutramix partnered with myself and B&D, you saw traditional bucks, you saw Nubians, you saw red boar, you saw dapple boar. And so, you know, to each their own. I'm not going to fight whatever you want. My deal is this. I'm just so excited that Jamaica has finally gotten a chance to improve the solid quality that we have. And so whatever your choice is of bucks, kudos to you. I am just wanting to ensure that our farmers are utilizing the resource or technology. Another thing that we have to recognize about artificial insemination is biosecurity. And basically, one of the critical factors about semen collection is that there's a process called washing the semen. And when the semen is being washed, it reduces the chance of transmitting STD. There's a process called washing and centrifugation. It goes through multiple washing cycles, for want of a better word. And so by the time you get that semen to be deposited in the straw for storage, you're getting a very clean semen. As opposed to a buck where you take a buck from another farm, you're not sure what diseases, sexual transmitted diseases it has been previously exposed to. Now you're getting potential breeding with a peace of mind that at least the male or the semen is not contaminated because of the process of washing. One of the things I want to call out on that note is the fact that chlamydia is a very popular disease in goats. And you see that happen a lot when you have, you bring in a new buck. It causes abortion, and it further on will cause reproductive issues. So utilizing AI is definitely an optimal choice. It's not for everybody, it's not for every goat on your farm, but it's just a concept that I strongly recommend to breeder of any size. And so, if I'm allowed, I just want to share a quick illustration that is non-goat related. And Nutramix folks, if I offend you by talking about mangoes, bear with me, we can always use the goat feces to fertilize the mangoes. And so, just wanted to share something with you. Thought that occurred this morning. Amazon has opened its gates to Jamaica, correct? If Amazon says to everybody in here, folks, I need for you to start producing 100 million tons of mango puree, which is pretty much the juiced mango, because they have a major contract in the US to distribute mango puree. And all of us, all we have is Blackie mango. I love me Blackie mango, but that's all we have, right? Do you think that we would be able to meet that demand? So, Agriculture 101. Can anybody tell me how can we? Let me hear some ideas. How do you think that we can meet that demand? Bigger mango. But how do you get the bigger? So this is my version of graphing, guys. Sorry, just a little piece of plastic bag tied around that. And I want to illustrate how you get from point A to point B. So here's where we started. Farmer Brown decided that, hey, we're going to incorporate technology to improve what we have. So Farmer Brown gets the technician, he grafts the mango. All of a sudden, we have this beautiful mango tree, and all of a sudden that 1 million ton deficit is being revealed or realized by producing a bigger mango. And this is really AI 101, guys. Silly reference point, but I just wanted to make sure that I was just correlating it with something that we all are aware of. Sorry, Nutramix, I had to go to crops and sorry. So let's do the math. And my math was based on a few farmers that I reached out and asked for, price points. So I'm hearing now that a good 4-month-old wean buck is about $200,000. That's what I'm hearing. Bear with me. A good one, not the regular redhead white body, but a good buck. We won't talk about redhead white body in this forum. As a pet peeve of mine. And so by the time you keep, let's say we're going to keep this animal for a year, you may invest another $150,000 in, just your general maintenance, vet bills, feed, whatever that animal may need. So now you have, by the time the animal reaches 1 year, let's assume we have $350,000 invested in this one animal, this one buck. So now he's a buck, or a buckling. He's now 1 year. My recommendation, or what I do is, for a 1-year buck, first of all, I expose all of my bucks to a female at 6 to 8 months. I don't believe in waiting for 18 months to get an animal to prove whether or not he's sexually active. He needs to prove to me that before I decide if he's staying in my herd. So at 6 months, he gets exposed. By the time he reaches 1 year, I would have been able to visibly see what he can produce based on my selection and based on him covering one female. So I give him at least one female at 6 months old. My recommendation is that a 1-year-old buck should not be exposed to more than 10 does. So the cost really of breeding 10 does by your high-powered buck that you bought from a top breeder, nothing wrong with that, is now, we have a legend in the room, is now $35 per animal, right? So the way I looked at that is the cost of AI, or cost of a straw of semen for AI, is $13,500 US, Jamaican dollars. We look at the difference. 35,000 versus 13,500, that's a significant difference. Along with the risk factors, the buck can die, the buck can be stolen, the buck can maybe infertile. There's several other things that come into play. I am not knocking down the value of the buck. I'm just trying to educate you that it's another way to look at things. I don't 100% use AI in my herd. In fact, it's a minimal number. I use about 5 to 10% AI in my herd. I have solid bucks that I'm confident in them. And so I'm not telling you guys to go the AI route. In fact, in the US, a small farmer with less than 15 animals usually go the AI route because it's cost effective. Just food for thought, guys. Disadvantages of AI, had to call that out. It has a success rate of 50 to 70%. Success rate is dependent on several factors: management, stress, seasonality. We all know that different seasons, you may get a little bit more. I believe now is the natural breeding season in the islands where, so if you're planning on doing AI at this time forward to probably January, February, you ought to be getting a higher suck. You probably hone over to the 70% mark. The other usually a buck will cover a female multiple times. In this case, it's just a one shot. And pray to God that Dr. Young lifted her back leg and balanced. But anyway, sorry for the comedy, but it's a one-shot deal, and so it's a high risk, high reward type initiative, but still cost effective. Couple of little things I want to share about my personal practices around. Let me go back. So we're going to talk about selecting or replacement animals. And so in my herd, I'm a pedigree junkie. I do a lot of line breeding. I do a lot of back cross because it's my plan for profit. I want consistency. I want predictability. I want to know that when I select that female and I put her with that buck, I can, with a high level of confidence, determine what kind of kid I'll get. And that's how the only resource I have is the pedigree. And so for those that are having discussions right now around pedigree, it is the right thing to do. Now is the time for it. In time, the Jamaican herd will have that significant reference point. So kudos to those who are leading the chart on that initiative. So, like I said, it starts with the pedigree, the registration papers for me. One thing I do is, before I select my replacement bucks, especially, I know which mothers I'm going to use to select those bucks from. Usually those are my best mothers. Usually that also equates to my best bloodline. And a lot of time, like I say, based on predictability, it coincides well. Your best mothers will definitely, just like Doc recommended earlier, that you want to make sure you're using your best females for the AI process. Now, in me selecting my best kids, I typically do that when I'm planning my breeding. And that's how I get it. But the only thing is, unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I have that reference point at this moment. Not every goat qualifies to be a stud in or a future breeding doe. And what I mean by that, I really want to let you guys know that, I've seen some goats on different media that folks are breeding up to get to a certain age and a certain weight. And like Doc said, the risk factors involved, when really and truly those are not, with all due respect, buck quality. they may meet the color standards, but that's about it. And so I am very picky with a buck that gets my label, my branding. In order to get that GMB1 tattoo in your right ears, along with your left ear ID, along with your registration paper, you have to meet a certain standard. And I personally cull very heavily. Back to the second point, just a key factor. If you want to select a kid, a buck kid, and you're not sure what you have, pick your most powerful doe. It is your most powerful doe. Power does produces power bucks. So if you're looking for a meat wagon type buck kid, make sure you identify a powerful female. The value of the queens can never be, ignored. Yes. And so, so power bucks, power does definitely, and that's what I do. And that's, how I also, that's one of the criteria that I use to select, to determine who is a good mother prior to kidding. Just some food for thought from my establishment is that, for bucks, we only select the top 15 to 20%. Like I said, I take pride in my herd. I've been doing this a long time. I know breeders in the US who every buck kid they have, they sell. And, the problem with that, you don't get a return customer because your customer base get disgusted because you're not selecting your top quality. You're selling every male kid you have, and, they don't perform as well as as you'd expect. Yes. Just a little bragging right now. My biggest customer base is actually Mexico. And one of the feedback I get from my customers over there is they'll buy animals throughout the US. Sometimes animals look a whole lot fat and pretty and sexy, as Gabby said earlier. But when they go to their ranches in Mexico, they fall apart. And it's something that you got to be very keen about because, just a little history on that, bragging rights again. One of the reasons I raise my goats the way I raise my goats is because I said, if ever Donald Trump decided to kick me out of his country or Joe Biden, I will always be able to transition my herd, if it was possible, Doc, if it was possible. I was always going to be able to transition my herd into the Jamaican environment. And I've kept that model in mind. I don't have pets. I have workers. My queens are my workers. My studs, they get a lot of exercise. They're out there working. They are aggressive breeders. I look for different things. So, there are certain little things besides the quick dollar that I look at. Just because I have such high expectations in terms of what would happen, the what-if analysis, should in case I have to leave the US and come back to the beautiful island of Jamaica home. So, I try my best to definitely manage my operation in a somewhat, unorthodox way. Something I want to call out to you guys is an outlier buck. It's not a common term. I'm not even sure if any other breeder in the US uses it, but I'm a pedigree breeder, so I reference something called an outlier. And an outlier buck kid to me is a buck kid. Remember I mentioned that I select my best kids from my best mothers. But there are sometimes you have some mediocre mothers that pop out some, champions. Unfortunately for me, you're going to have to be a champion somewhere else because mama ain't the champion. And so the reason I wanted to let folks know about that, we see a lot of goats that are available for sale, and not because the kid looks good now means that genetic potential is going to continue that way. And if it does, kudos to whatever happened. But just be careful when you're purchasing animals that make sure you know who the mother is. You have to go to that breeder. And that breeder should have the respect for your dollar and the integrity to say, this buck came from that. The does I'm not that harsh on, but the buck, which represents usually 50% of your herd, when you're spending that high dollar, you have to understand those kind of dynamism. So, just a little bit more information on outlier. We don't keep those bucks in our herd. Outlier does, if it's a phenomenal doe that came out of a mediocre mother, she'll be kept back, and we'll watch her over time to determine if she is sold to another breeder or potentially stays in the herd. Another discussion that has been popular on social media here is line breeding. And we all know what line breeding is. There's a school of thought that it is line breeding when it works, and it's inbreeding when it doesn't work. Or it's line breeding when the scientists do it, and it's inbreeding when the farmers do it. I've had several discussions with the esteemed Mr. Sawyers about line breeding, and I'm happy to know that we share similar concepts of the value of that. And so I just wanted to share an example of, of line breeding. We don't need to go in that for the interest of time. But this is a stud that I personally believe is probably the best buck in the United States for the past maybe 10 years. His name is All Trumped Up. He was the 2017 National Grand Champion buck. What does that mean? He was the best buck in the US in 2017. If you look at his pedigree, you'll see, you go back to his grandsire, you'll see strategic power on top, you'll see strategic power on the bottom. So that portion represents, on the pedigree, actually, this is a replication, so forget about this one. That portion on top where you see sire represents his father's pedigree. On the bottom, it represents his dam, which is his mother. So it starts off where All Trumped Up is a strategic power grandson on top and on bottom. That's line breeding. His father's wife, girlfriend, Matey, was a half sister. That's what happens when you breed on the grandsire. So this is really a simple example of how that close lineage cross can impact, where in the US they produced the 2017 national champion. And I'm hoping we have some pictures on this slide. No pictures? Okay. What I'll do is I'll be sharing on the Nutramix site some of the pictures of that phenomenal stud. In fact, one of my probably best studs that I've raised, he's about 19 months old, weighing about 340 rather, is out of that All Trumped Up. Sorry that I couldn't share those pictures, but just wanted to talk a little bit about the significance of such. And a lot of breeds were developed by utilizing, kudos to Dr. T.P. Lecky. Once he had established his criteria for the Jamaican Black, the Jamaican Red, the Jamaican Hope, he had to have, brought in all those genetics, then he tied it up, and to ensure consistency, he would have had to breed tightly. There's a cattle ranch in the US, the Oli Ranch. Their model has been for the past 40 plus years, line breeding tightly. And they're now one of the more successful breeders in the US because one, you know, they've identified their opportunities. And I shared a video a few weeks ago where he said, line breeding does not create problems. It exposes problems. And so some of the genetic package that I used, the Cannon, the Bowhowdies, the Bojangles, the Strategic Power, the All Trumped Up, the Flashy Coupon that are centralized portion of my herd, the reason why I'm able to tie them in that way is because they are proven sires. And so I breed with confidence. And, you know, those are just some of the practices that I incorporate. Are there any questions from the audience? I think you're my competition. You said you're Gold Spring?
Yes.
I think you're my competition.
All right, so thank you.
That's my brother, guys.
All right, Samuel, I just want to ask of your perspective on, based on what you are doing, your genetics, your semen, your embryo, partnering with Nutramix, how do you see things here locally? You have seen the best of both worlds. You have seen the worst of both worlds, here locally in Jamaica and in the wide United States. You're a showman. What's your perspective on the Jamaican goat breeding between now and the next 5 years?
I like that question. I personally believe that Jamaica has lapsed, honestly, and we've had some opportunities. Those opportunities, I hope they have been hashed out. I see the Small Ruminant Association working assiduously to move the needle forward. I'm appreciative of that. But 1998, when I left Jamaica to go study, I knew back then that Jamaica had the potential to be just as good as the South Africans. And the reason is, if you look on the South African videos or their herds, you'll notice that we have dry grass out there. They have dirt. Jamaica is blessed with wood and water, the land of wood and water. We have a lot of natural resources. Me traveling through the country this week, looking at all the goat feed, the Lucinia, the wild Lucinia, the guinea grass, there's not a feed shortage in Jamaica. Farmers just need to think different how to access feed for your animals. Think outside the box. So, how do I see things in the next 5 years? I believe Jamaica has the capacity and the capability to definitely rival the originators of the breed, the South Africans. I believe that Jamaica has the ability to be self-sufficient in a way where, you know, I'm not, you know, Michael Phelps, when he's a swimmer, he doesn't look at the person beside him. When he was swimming and winning the Olympics, he looked in front of him. I'm not worried about, with all due respect, Your Honor, I'm not worried about the importation bill. I'm worried about fixing my backyard to where I position myself to maximize on my whatever resources, limited or otherwise, I have. And that is the mentality farmers need to have. Yes, there's a significant amount of meat coming in the country. However, what are we doing about it? Let's look at the finish line. Look at your finish line. Focus on winning on your race. And then we can all, you know, and of course we have different reference points. Yes, sir.
When you were doing the presentation,
yes, sir,
I saw you list Magnum, and I was wondering, because Magnum is really popular in Jamaica, I was wondering what percentage of your line would contain Magnum, if any.
So, and I'm so sorry, man, but what's your name, sir?
My name is Sir Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Beautiful question. But Magnum, to me, is the granddaddy of them all. The greatest buck that has ever touched U.S. soil. He's of significant close South African descent. He was one of the first bucks that got ennobled in the U.S. It is so ironic that years of me trial and error and looking at different genetics, animals that are easy keeper, animals that consistently produce the conformation of the South African look. I was so shocked 2 years ago when I understood that the legendary Al Archer had imported a son out of Magnum. I could not believe it because it was so ironic that I'm working on that, tightening that Magnum line, and that gem had already been in our beautiful country. And that is why I'm saying, guys, don't devalue what you have right now. Don't get distracted with your the sidebars. We right now are in a better position than we give ourselves credit. So, Magnum line, every buck, every animal in my herd is some distance descendant of Magnum. In fact, I had to sacrifice picking up cans on the side of the road to buy 3 straws of semen of Magnum that I'll be using this winter. I've had it for about 3 years, and I finally think that this fall I'll be using on some flush. Was there any questions? Wrap up. Thank you, guys.
That reception, let us say thanks to Sam for that great presentation. Wonderful, wonderful. Really appreciate that. And I'm sure we would have learned quite a bit from him here today. So we had said before that there are 2 sides to what we're doing. There's a practical component. So after we leave here, we're going to assemble under the big tent down there to do the practical side of what we're doing today. But I know by now people must be feeling a little bored and a little tired and a little weary. So we're going to break for 15 minutes, get some refreshment over there, and then we're going to meet again under the tent. But before we go, there an announcement. Somebody has a silver Toyota Wish, license plate 0950FQ. Your headlights are on, so you may not be able to go home if you don't go and fix that now. So try and check on your car. Thanks again. Let us refresh ourselves, and then we can assemble under the tent for the practical component. Thank you.
So for those who are interested, the practical component is actually looking at some goats, and we're going to be talking about them, the good features, the bad, and what is needed, all right?
So this right here is a Famacha test. We expose the membrane. It should be pink. This is normal. This assesses the level of worm burden. It does not tell you the type of worm or anything like that. So here again we assess the perfusion. Well, keep in mind that there are many causes of poor perfusion, right? There are many causes again of pure perfusion / anemia. Okay, so this is what farmers normally use. So we put one down and we squeeze and we expose. So this is what farmers normally use or should use to assess the worm burden. So again, farmers should not seek to use wormers because you build up resistance. Very good condition going into parturition, going into kidding. Reduces the chance significantly of metabolic diseases such as ketosis, twin lamb disease. Some of the time you have something looking like calcium deposit right here, and it blocks up the squiggly. Same thing they call stoppage of water. So you black it up. So normal calcium deposit, but because it's a breeding buck, right? And if you have a lot of urine deposit right here, we have a bacteria that's right here. So it convert back the uric acid back into ammonia. Because it's ammonia, then uric acid, which you PP out. But it converts it back the use acid to ammonia. And you know ammonia, you burn off the skin. And then you will find this skin, the foreskin, will stick onto the penis. And it can't breathe nothing. So you have to make sure it's clean and everything is nice and the squiggly is good. So make sure you keep, probably could wipe it off. Make sure your service board intact because he's the one bringing all the money.
My name is K. Marie Dennis. I'm the owner of Dennis Goat Farm, which is located in Burn Savannah, St. Elizabeth. I have been a goat farmer for the past 3 years, where I started out with my local mother and my boar buck. With the cross of my boar buck and local mothers, I got kids weaning at 3 months, weighing 50 pounds with good nutrition and free choice mineral. With the support of Nutramix livestock support team, I am able to manage my farm better. I have decided to use artificial insemination to improve my genetics and avoid inbreeding.
Dennis Goat Farm is actually the ideal small farmer. If you look at her farm, she has a kiddie area where we see she has like a 100% survivability of her kids. These animals are actually like 1 month old, and just look at the body condition. They are high producers, so the nutrition is very ideal. I think she's ready to take the step for artificial insemination, which is AI, artificial inseminations, to increase her genetics on farm to 50%, as opposed to embryo transfer, which is a more technical process. So that would give you a purebred animal, which is a 100% increase in your herd.
My name is Mark Mardna, owner of Fusion Farm, located in Bushy Park, St. Catherine. With AI, you tend to get more than the norm. The norm is 2 kids. With the AI, you tend to get 3, 4. I have even 5. However, the joy about all of that, one, you improve the genetic of your herd, right? You can say, or you have the bragging right of saying, well, I have this compared to somebody else who have just the regular. When you have a female especially, I personally prefer to get female because that is something that I keep in my herd that will never ever slaughter. And the benefit from that, you continue to upgrade your herd. So going the AI for me is all about improving my herd. So you have to have a structured system in place. Gone are the days when you leg some animal over there and you don't look back at them until night and so forth. The word in the street, some people have it go take a very long time to develop on them. It's yes and no to me. One, it come back to how you treat the animal or you feed the animal. If you're going to rely on grass only, then the animal going to take forever to reach maturity. You have to approach it from a business perspective. You can't just have some animal roaming all over the place and expect to get the best result.
So this right here is a Famacha test. We expose the membrane. It should be pink. This is normal. This assesses the level of worm burden. It does not tell you the type of worm or anything like that. So here again we assess the perfusion. Well, keep in mind that there are many causes of poor perfusion, right? There are many causes again of pure perfusion / anemia. Okay, so this is what farmers normally use. So we put one down and we squeeze and we expose. So this is what farmers normally use or should use to assess the worm burden. So again, farmers should not seek to use wormers because you build up resistance. Very good condition going into parturition, going into kidding. Reduces the chance significantly of metabolic diseases such as ketosis, twin lamb disease. Some of the time you have something looking like calcium deposit right here and it blocks up the squiggly. Same thing they call stoppage of water. So you block it up. So normal calcium deposit, but because it's a breeding buck, right? And if you have a lot of urine deposit right here, we have a bacteria that's live right here. So it convert back the uric acid back into ammonia. Because it's ammonia, then uric acid, which you pee out. But it converts back the uric acid to ammonia. And you know ammonia, it burn off the skin. And then you will find this skin, the foreskin, will stick onto the penis. And it can't breathe nothing. So you have to make sure it's clean and everything is nice and the squiggly is good. So make sure you keep, probably could wipe it off. Make sure your service boy intact because he's the one bringing all the money.
My name is K. Marie Dennis. I'm the owner of Dennis Goat Farm, which is located in Burn Savannah, St. Elizabeth. I have been a goat farmer for the past 3 years, where I started out with my local mother and my boar buck. With the cross of my boar buck and local mothers, I got kids weaning at 3 months, weighing 50 pounds with good nutrition and free choice mineral. With the support of Nutramix livestock support team, I am able to manage my farm better. I have decided to use artificial insemination to improve my genetics and avoid inbreeding.
Dennis Goat Farm is actually the ideal small farmer. If you look at her farm, she has a kiddie area where we see she has like a 100% survivability of her kids. These animals are actually like 1 month old, and just look at the body condition. They are high producers, so the nutrition is very ideal. I think she's ready to take the step for artificial insemination, which is AI, artificial inseminations, to increase her genetics on farm to 50%, as opposed to embryo transfer, which is a more technical process. So that would give you a purebred animal, which is a 100% increase in your herd.
My name is Mark Mardna, owner of Fusion Farm, located in Bushy Park, St. Catherine. With AI, you tend to get more than the norm. So the norm is 2 kids. With the AI, you tend to get 3, 4. I have even 5. However, the joy about all of that, one, you improve the genetic of your herd, right? You can say, or you have the bragging right of saying, well, I have this compared to somebody else who have just the regular. When you have a female especially, I personally prefer to get female because that is something that I keep in my herd that will never ever slaughter. And the benefit from that, you continue to upgrade your herd. So going the AI for me is all about improving my herd. So you have to have a structured system in place. Gone are the days when you Lego some animal over there and you don't look back at them until night and so forth. The word in the street, some people have it go take a very long time to develop on them. It's yes and no to me. One, it come back to how you treat the animal or you feed the animal. If you're going to rely on grass only, then the animal is going to take forever to reach maturity. You have to approach it from a business perspective. You can't just have some animal roaming all over the place and expect to get the best result.
So this right here is a Famacha test. We expose the membrane. It should be pink. This is normal. This assesses the level of worm burden. It does not tell you the type of worm or anything like that. So here again we assess the perfusion. Well, keep in mind that there are many causes of poor perfusion, right? There are many causes again of pure perfusion / anemia. Okay, so this is what farmers normally use. So we put one down and we squeeze and we expose. So this is what farmers normally use or should use to assess the worm burden. So again, farmers should not seek to use wormers because you build up resistance. Very good condition going into parturition, going into kidding. Reduces the chance significantly of metabolic diseases such as ketosis, twin lamb disease. Some of the time you have something looking like calcium deposit right here and it blocks up the squiggly. Same thing they call stoppage of water. So you block it up. So normal calcium deposit, but because it's a breeding buck, right? And if you have a lot of urine deposit right here, we have a bacteria that's live right here. So it convert back the uric acid back into ammonia. Because it's ammonia, then uric acid, which you pee out. But it converts back the uric acid to ammonia. And you know ammonia, you burn off the skin. And then you will find this skin, the foreskin, will stick onto the penis. And you can't breathe nothing. So you have to make sure it's clean and everything is nice and the squiggly is good. So make sure you keep, probably could wipe it off. Make sure your service board is intact because he's the one bringing all the money.
My name is K. Marie Dennis. I'm the owner of Dennis Goat Farm, which is located in Burn Savannah, St. Elizabeth. I have been a goat farmer for the past 3 years, where I started out with my local mother and my boar buck. With the cross of my boar buck and local mothers, I got kids weaning at 3 months, weighing 50 pounds with good nutrition and free choice mineral. With the support of Nutramix livestock support team, I am able to manage my farm better. I have decided to use artificial insemination to improve my genetics and avoid inbreeding.
Dennis Goat Farm is actually the ideal small farmer. If you look at her farm, she has a kiddie area where we see she has like a 100% survivability of her kids. These animals are actually like 1 month old, and just look at the body condition. They are high producers, so the nutrition is very ideal. I think she's ready to take the step for artificial insemination, which is AI, artificial inseminations, to increase her genetics on farm to 50%, as opposed to embryo transfer, which is a more technical process. So that would give you a purebred animal, which is a 100% increase in your herd.
My name is Mark Mardna, owner of Fusion Farm, located in Bushy Park, St. Catherine. With AI, you tend to get more than the norm. So the norm is 2 kids. With the AI, you tend to get 3, 4. I have even 5. However, the joy about all of that, one, you improve the genetic of your herd, right? You can say, or you have the bragging right of saying, well, I have this compared to somebody else who have just the regular. When you have a female especially, I personally prefer to get female because that is something that I keep in my herd that will never ever slaughter. And the benefit from that, you continue to upgrade your herd. So going the AI for me is all about improving my herd. So you have to have a structure system in place. Gone are the days when you leg some animal over there and you don't look back at them until night and so forth. The word in the street, some people have it go take a very long time to develop on them. It's yes and no to me. One, it come back to how you treat the animal or you feed the animal. If you're going to rely on grass only, then the animal is going to take forever to reach maturity. You have to approach it from a business perspective. You can't just have some animal roaming all over the place and expect to get the best result.
So this right.
Practice. I'm sure you guys have the same experience as I have. But how I look at an animal to determine whether it's breed standard or conformation or whatever you want to call it, me personally, I start from the ground up. By that I mean I start from the foot all the way up. And then I break the animal into different components. First, second, and third portions. So first thing I look at is how the animal walks or how she sets on the ground. Because an animal this size needs to have a solid base. Her hooves need to be solid. She needs to be able to walk and travel good distances. So that's why looking from the ground up is important. So you want to make sure that she has straight legs, she stands correctly, legs are straight, they're not close or almost crossed. She's pretty solid how she stands right now. Could open up a little bit more, but I'm sure she's nervous just like most of us. You want the animal to, you look on the back leg, you want to make sure that she's not sickle-hocked or cow-hocked. That can be a problem because a lot of times that tends to be a genetic opportunity. Yes, just. So she's not cow-hocked by any means. She was a standing. So you want them to be somewhat wide in the back leg. You definitely don't want an animal because that's a potential where she'll be weak in the future. And if she gains a lot of weight, well, she's already heavy. But if she had sickle hock or cow hock, you definitely be having issues with her moving as she gets older. Another key thing that I forgot to talk about was the pastern. Boer goats need to have strong pastern, and the pastern is at this point, from here to here, on front and back. You need a strong pastern. These animals both have pretty solid pastern, and the pastern allows them to stand solid on their legs. So we have a good representation of what strong pasterns are here. We talk about the hock, we talk about the front leg. Next thing I look at on the animal is that side profile. So I look on the side and see how she profiles. If I was going to look at one animal over the next, let's assume that they were the same, in the same class. I would have to pick the Deep Cape doe. She has a more straight top line. It extends pretty smoothly throughout the shoulders, over her shoulders, over to her neckline. Her third portion, her back third, just pivots real or slopes pretty decently. Not too sharp, nor is it too level. A lot of times you'll see, especially in the States, animals that their coop is just straight. To me, that is an opportunity for kidding. You want that slight natural slope, not too deep of a slope. She's acceptable, but she's going towards a deeper slope than I'd probably want, but still acceptable. This one is, to me, is ideal. This is a smoother slope than you're seeing that sharper slope there. So we look on the side profile. You want to see the animal with that great top line. You want to see that extension. You want to see that, definitely you want to see how deep her chest is. And this girl got some serious chest. Her depth of chest, which is measured, you can see how wide she is in her front end. She definitely is what you call a doe that will pat the meat on. That's what I call a power doe. So when I'm looking for a doe to select my bucks from, she has to be of this quality. And to be honest, this doe is in good condition. I wouldn't say over condition, but you can still see that she has more natural power than fat. You're seeing a little fat there, but you're seeing a lot of power also, natural power. So I'm going to choose this doe over that doe to be my replacement, to select my replacement studs, because she has the, she has a more, closer front end. She's not packing that. So on these does, if I was going to choose a buck, that doe would definitely be either King Cool or Meat Wagon. Those bucks are a little bit shorter, more stocky, but still powerful. They may transcend some of that power. They will transcend some of that power over on her. She has the length that, definitely complements their body style. So like I said, the two lighter head bucks that I have, Meat Wagon and King Cool, they are definitely my bucks that I use on more extended does. So I would say you can see this doe is a more extended doe. I'll definitely use those two bucks on her. The two half brothers, Cannon Fired and Joyride, definitely complements this doe. She's a little lower to the ground. She's a little bit more compact, and their body style is real stretches. Now they already have power. She has power, so I think this would be an excellent complement, no matter how you look at it. She's just a good crossover. No problem. Just want to share something. Just want to share something with you guys. In my opinion, it's a fat goat. My opinion that a fat goat is usually a non-productive goat in my herd. Sorry. You have goats that are easy keeper, but the reason why I'm saying that, she's in good, very good condition, but she's a little fat, in my opinion. When you're trying to steam up or flush animals for AI, they don't have to get to this level. So don't think that the animal has to just be fat, almost obesity, to be selected for the program. I actually prefer goats just a little bit more conditioned than her to be in AI, and as she gets pregnant, as the pregnancy progresses, then you'll see the she'll be gaining the weight. But one of the things I want to point out is, of course, that's a Nubian goat. We all know the different Nubian characteristics that we look for. I won't go into that right now. But something that we need to start measuring is milking ability or milking potential. I know that the industry has shifted where it's divided to where folks are wanting to go into milk, cheese, soap, and all those value-added items. So we have to make sure that we're not just looking at our Nubian does as, for confirmation. We have to also look at what's underneath them. We have to look at the other attachment, and we also have to assess whether or not these females will be good milkers. Do they have the capacity to milk? Are they big producers? She has very good udder right now. It's a little harder for the Nubians because the only time you can really measure how good they are, in my opinion, is when they're in milk. But still, just want to make sure that you guys are aware that whenever you're looking for your improving your milk lines or you're working towards your milk yield goals, definitely select the animals that are high milk producers. Sometimes it's a cross, sometimes it's a 50%, sometimes it's a full blood. But right now, let's just not look at Nubians. Nubians were brought to Jamaica as dual purpose, for meat purpose mainly. We selected them as such because there was no market for milk originally. And so now we have to kind of reprogram our thought process and start looking in towards assessing milk production. I personally believe that the body style and conformation of the Jamaican Nubians far supersedes the US. However, when it comes to milk production, which is where the rubber hits the road, there's no comparison. The US Nubian goats, they just are high performers. You can, Doc, you brought what? How many Nubian CBN came in, Doc? 3? 1 from my farm and 2 from any one of those Nubians. Breed with confidence. Doesn't have to be the one from my ranch. There are 2 other ones that are actually from multiple champion bloodlines. The US dairy goat is a guaranteed success for milk production. Back to this though, so like I said, normally we start from the floor up. Definitely her pasterns are not weak. Probably could use a little bit of hoof clipping to really represent a better stance, but overall, I would say very good pasterns. Front leg and back leg, pretty decent. That's not a sickle hawk. She's just standing like that because she's probably a little stressed, but I didn't see any sickle hawk while she was walking in. You normally see the sickle hawk while they're in the move. She has a pretty good girth around, meaning you look on the girth also and how it ties in to this powerful chest. You don't want an animal that is sunk, has a big chest and is sunken here. You want an animal that is flush. She flushes well throughout her sideline. And that tells you that she has a good heart girth. You have to think about the functionality of the animal, not just the looks, okay? And so you want the animal to be able to breathe and be able to definitely go out in distances to go forage and not be, just panting like a German Shepherd. So definitely, she has a very good, I would like to see her with a little extension in her neck, seeing that she's a female. In terms of breed characteristics, it could be agreed or disagreed that she could use a little bit more Roman in her nose. She probably could use a little bit more curve in her horn set. But nonetheless, this is also a pretty good female right here that is what I would consider a power doe. So, any questions so far? Any suggestions so far when you're selecting? What is it that you guys, yes sir? So either way, you got to think your operation may not be your customer's operation. And so you got to think about your customer base then, because if, you know, but you have to look at, okay, what are the characteristics? As a breeder, you're committed and your integrity lies online. And so it is critically important that, you know, you're culling the ones that have some opportunities or trying to breed that bad feature or character out. Some of them are easy to be eliminated. Some of them are very hard to be removed, so you may have to cull. I'm sorry.
Your stance on supernumeracy in those.
Super?
Numeracy.
Super. Oh, sorry. Sorry, gotcha. My stance is I want good other attachment, proper structure. I don't care if it's 2, 4, or 6. I don't want 8. But they need to be well spread apart. I've had those that have kidded triplets and quads and only have 2 teeth. And is a high milk producer, and I'm saying it's only 2 teeth. So, all of them raise well, yeah. But I like to have, personally, 4 teeth. So, good question. Sure. Thank you. So here's where I get a little difficult and a little picky. So on my left, I see a Nubian buck, maybe 5 to 6 months old. He is expressing all the Nubian characteristics. He's not lean. He has a pretty good structure. The face is not as Roman as it is. Could be probably an animal of an American Nubian influence or percentage. Is this a AI kid? Yeah. Okay, so yes, those American Nubians, you won't get that beautiful Roman nose. But I see a good Nubian buck, replacement buck here. On the other hand, so when you're judging animals, you have to look at the animals right now, today. Let's assume I didn't know that this animal had maybe some illness, maybe coccidiosis at an early age. To me, this animal is a stunned goat. It could not be, may not be, but just based on my looks, there's nothing impressive to me on this buck. But the reason why I say that, he's not carrying that muscle. His conformation is nice. If you look on his top line, very smooth top line. He extends out with the neck. Horn shape is looking good. But right now, he's just not representing breed characteristics, especially when it comes down to meat. And so if I'm selecting a buck, unless I know a lot more than I know today about this buck, he would not be going home with me as a replacement. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't get a little TLC or whatever. And that's why it's critical that we have these discussions with our breeders to give us the history. Tell me a little more about the goat. Let me see what the mother look like. Let us know a little bit more about the goat. Just don't Facebook buy the goat and say, oh, redhead, white body. Because there could be a legitimate story behind this goat. I've had goats that were of phenomenal parentage and coccidiosis or E. coli hit me, and the animal got stunned because I sucked at managing that goat. And so there could be a story behind this goat why he's like this. But today, I'm not impressed with him because he's probably a a 6 or 7 month old. He looks like one of my 3.5-month-old kids right now. Definitely Curry prospect, but like I said, I don't know. I don't know the background on him, you know. But he wouldn't stay in my herd looking like this long. I'm assuming.
Assuming he's 6-7
Yes,
months
sir.
old, right? Behind this animal, they probably have good genetics behind it. Right?
Yes.
How much time would you give this animal in terms of to get into condition and prove to you
Okay.
it could go on to another?
I love that question. Let me tell you why. One of the common practices that I do, if I buy an animal or if I sell you an animal, the day the animal comes on my farm, even if you told me, Dr. Young, with all the credibility Dr. Young has, she said, Sam, 10 minutes before you came here, I dewormed, vaccinated, and I did everything. I want peace of mind, so the first thing I'm going to do is deworm the animal, give it some medication, start a clean slate. And then I'm going to isolate the animal and start, if the breeder said, hey, I guarantee, which it could be the case, there could be a legitimate reason why he looks this way. But if I want to take that risk, in 60 days, this animal should be gaining at least another 45 pounds. If not, no, look here, guys, let me tell you something. Let me be honest with you. I am cheap. The ram and lamb that you guys have in Jamaica is a far superior feed than what I feed my goats. And I don't have nothing like this as males on my herd. So you have the ingredients for success. You have a phenomenal formulation. You have the services. If you're not seeing significant progress in this goat, charge it to the game and say, hey, move on to the next. You can't wait a lifetime for an animal to improve. Can't wait. It makes no business sense. So, any questions before we shut down? So,
Jesus, I reach over here anymore.
in my opinion, both scrotums are acceptable. This one has a slight indentation. In the US, they've reduced it from a 2-inch split to a 1-inch split. I've bought studs that have up to 2-inch split. If the only thing about the animal is that he got a split in his scrotum, believe me, I got a belly, I'm not perfect. If that's all about that goat that I am concerned with, but he has all the genetic potential and physical characteristic and potential, as the last, for me, it's the last thing I'm looking at. So I know some people are very strict on thanks. I know folks are strict on splits and stuff like this. The one that I would focus on is the teeth, the overbite or the underbite. Now, for me, I call heavily for that, and I'm sorry that I didn't go into that. But.
Also, I just have to mention too, if you're buying a buck, you have to really look at the testicles. If you're buying a buck, you have to look at the testicles, as somebody said, and just not look, yes, the split or whatever, and the shape and the size and uniformity, but most importantly is also the size. His size of his testicles must match his age, and I've seen too many farms where I go and the testicles are half the size of an adult buck. Well, he's not a breeding buck, right? So that's really important too.
Let me just tell you something about the good side about this buck though. See this bone on him? He's got pretty good bone. To me, structurally, he's correct. The only opportunity he has right now, he's not expressing that muscle mass that I want as a buck. So, as a boar buck. So if this was on sale and somebody said, you're not buy it? Okay, well, don't buy it. But But
good day. Sometimes the ram can just get a one running belly, you know. You can't really like say nah, but yes or no, just a running belly and him just get a little drop back. But based upon the time you start feeding back, him will get back that pump and push that he.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. If there's a story behind it that is legitimate, that this animal had some kind of opportunity, sure. I wouldn't write it off. But just like I said, I'm just looking at what I see today. Yeah. If you don't improve 60 days, you know that you made a bad decision. If you've done the work. You know what I mean? All right, guys. Any other question? Color? Color is a state of mind. I mean, it depends on the operation. If you're like me, it is very important. But if your focus is meat, I'll give you a quick story. This gentleman, he had 3 bucks for sale maybe about 30 years ago, Dickie Morrison. I used to live in his goat pen. And there was a Nubian buck, 3 Nubian bucks he had for sale. One almost like that, but shorter ears and was just a meat wagon, powerful. Dickie said to me, Sam, that's their buck. I got caught up into long ears, Roman nose, and skinny bottom. But I wanted a meat buck. But to me, he didn't fit the criteria because the buck that Mr. Morrison recommended didn't have the Roman nose, which had no value in a meat operation. So my point is, understand your operation. If you're going for meat, genetics matter, but confirmation and some of that stuff, as long as you're adding to the bottom line in your meat operation, where you're getting faster growth rate, you're yielding in a quicker time, that's all that matters. And so, Mr. Morrison, to this day, I stand corrected. I made a bad choice, even though you warned me. I can't.
I was asking if there's a way you can know a purebred boar from a graded.
I can't tell what he is. In my opinion, he looked like a full-blood. But I don't know. In my opinion, verification and validation is the only way we can combat this. You need a visible verification and you need a paperwork validation. That's the only way I could truly answer that question, sir. Plus integrity. So.
Well, thank you very much, Sam. We don't want to keep you. We have lots of food here. Curry goat from Murray's, I was told. In keeping with our local curry goat theme. This is curry goat. Right? So please join us. We'll still be around. We have all the members of the team here. You can talk to anyone you want. Sam will be here. Everybody's here. So please enjoy. Thank you very, very much for coming. It was great. I hope you all learned something. Anybody else want to say anything?
Oh, go on, Papa.
No demonstration?
Huh?
We were going to ask the minister to do it, but he said he couldn't manage that one. He thought he would get too much ridicule. So we just skipped the AI demonstration. That was done yesterday at Hounslow. So, sorry. All right, let's eat.
Yes, Papa. I tell you.